The 5K SnipeAthon is a public trading journey where I'm going to grow $5,000 of my own money to $10,000 trading currency in the foreign exchange market. This is a completely public and transparent trading journey where I give daily and weekly updates of the progress. If you want to follow and stay up to date on this trading journey, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn the notifications on, and look in the comments to join the Snipers Anonymous broadcast where I update the chat daily on the progress of the account. Welcome to the call, family. Welcome to the call. Shalom, shalom. If everybody could drop their favorite emoji inside the comments to let me know that you can hear me loud and clear before I continue on. What's going on? Welcome to the call, Free Foreman. Welcome to the call, John. What's up, Joe? Can everybody hear me? Good, good, good. Okay, well, without further ado, here is this week's weekly update. We are in week 5. And so last week we had a starting balance of $4,977.27. And we ended the week with $4,977.27. We took 0 wins, 0 losses. All right, so win rate is not available because no trades were taken last week. So no open trades running. Net profit, net loss is still $22.73, and the net loss percentage is 0.45%. And the notes that I have for last week are Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And the reason why all you guys who were in the Snipers Anonymous broadcast, you know that it was quiet last week. And as you can recall, last week when I went over the dollar, I said I vowed to not take a trade as long as the dollar is within consolidation. And, you know, that week, the dollar stayed in consolidation and in that range the whole week until I want to say either Thursday night or Friday morning when it finally broke out to the top. But I ended up not placing any trades, and that's okay. That is a part of building psychology, like the fear of missing out. And so the reason why I put Ecclesiastes 3 or Ecclesiastes 3 in the notes is because this is what let's just go over it really quick. This is what Ecclesiastes 3 says. Give me a quick second to share my screen. This. So Ecclesiastes chapter 1 says, or I'm sorry, chapter 3, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up. And I could keep going on and on, but what this word, what it basically breaks down to is that there's a time for everything, right? And because I apply biblical principles to everything that I do, my relationship, my family, trading, you have to look at it as the psychological building up of you as a trader when it comes to understanding that there's a time for everything. There's a time to be trading and there's a time not to be trading. And a lot of times when you shouldn't be trading is whenever you go into the market and you say, I don't know what's going on. Like I can't tell what it's going to do next. Anytime you have that feeling where you look at the market and you just get that feeling like I really don't know which way it's going. Trust that instinct, trust that gut feeling. That is a part of the psychology, is actually listening to yourself when you get that feeling. Whether you're wrong or right about the feeling, if you listen to yourself 100% of the time when you feel like that, more than not, right? More than half of the time, you're right about the way that you're feeling, because your brain has an algorithm, right? It has an algorithm and it picks up certain patterns and it associates winning, or that feeling, that little hit of dopamine that we get when we win. It associated with the patterns that's associated with that feeling, right? So whatever patterns you see, whatever trading strategy that you've developed, you're used to seeing a certain thing when you come to the market. And if something is kind of off or it just doesn't feel right, that is your trader's intuition. And I'm encouraging y'all to trust that and to build that muscle, because that is a part of becoming a good trader, is actually knowing when not to trade. So I just wanted to go over that really quick. And like I said, not a lot happened last week. So this week's focus is going to be plan the trades and trade the plan. That's it. It's simple. We going in, we're going to analyze the charts, and we're going to set our levels, and we're going to stick to the trading plan. We're going to stick to the risk management, and we're going to continue moving forward with the same mindset, same discipline that we've been moving with since the beginning of the challenge. All right, so here's the agenda for this week. Let's see. So first, we're going to go over news forecasts. All right, we always break down news for the week, and then after that, we're going to review the dollar to get a forecast of all the pairs that are connected to the United States dollar. Then we'll review the euro versus the pound to see where euro is sitting as far as its strength or its weakness, or potential strength, potential weakness. Then we're going to review euro USD, and then I'm going to actually have you guys pick a pair. Anybody who drops anything in the comments at that time when I ask, we'll go over that. Or if it's multiple pairs dropped and it's the same pair, we'll go with the popular demand. And after that, we're going to go over the Strait of Hormuz and the petrodollar, because this is something that's really big right now in the currency market. And I actually want to shout out John for bringing this to my attention. It's not even something that I've really been paying too much attention to. I've heard about it. I've seen, headlines about it, but I didn't look too much into it. And when John sent me this information, I actually started to do some digging myself. And I got some information I don't want to share with you guys, because it's a lot going around and circulating on social media, and things can be misleading. So I just want to clear some things up, go over some things that I learned, with you guys. And hopefully you guys are able to learn from that too. And then after that, we'll close it out. So first, let's get into the news forecast. All right. Let's see. Give me a quick second to share my screen. All right, there we go. And let me adjust this so that I'm at the bottom. There we go. All right, so what are we looking at for the week? Everything for Monday has already passed. Nothing major really happened. Going into Tuesday, I don't see too many red folders. We have something at 6 o'clock in the morning for the euro, and then we have employment change at 8:15. So we'll keep an eye out for that. What I've been noticing with news releases too is that they're news releases aren't what they used to be. I remember when I first started trading back in 2019, NFP news releases, and I'm pretty sure some of you traders that have been in the game for a while, y'all can vouch that the news releases aren't what they used to be. It's not as much volatility. You don't see as much movement as you used to see, 6-7 years ago. On Wednesday, we have another news release for the euro at 6 o'clock in the morning, another red folder. And then at 8:30, PPI. Oh, we have a Fed interest rate decision. All right, so this is why we always look at the news. We got things going on in our life. It's very easy to forget what time of the month it is. But we have a federal interest rate decision, which means for me, I'm going to be looking out actually right now, earlier in the week, for weird price movements, because when big news releases like this, especially interest rates, which are primary drivers of the foreign exchange market, price moves weird at random times throughout the week. But of course, on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, 1400 military time, but At 2 o'clock p.m., they're going to be releasing their decision as far as interest rates, and I'm pretty sure that's going to provide a lot of volatility to the market. So we're going to bookmark Wednesday, and then they have the conference all after that. But so from 2 to 2:30, and then for anybody who trades the yen, got some high interest rate decision that's going to be at 11 o'clock. All right, that's going to be at 11 o'clock. So then Thursday for the pound unemployment rate, that's going to be at 3 in the morning. We'll have some more news for the pound, employment change, and then interest rate decision. All right, so bookmark that too for anybody that's trading the pound versus the Japan yen, pound versus the dollar, anything that involves the pound. You have a very significant news release on Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning, interest rate decision. And then for the United States dollar at 8:30, we have jobless claims, more red folder. And then the euro has interest rate decision at 9 o'clock in the morning. All right, so Thursday is going to be a busy day too. That's another day that we're going to bookmark. So far we got Wednesday and Thursday that we're really going to be paying attention to. We got a lot of news releases in between 9 and 9:45. And then on Friday, also new home sales for the United States dollar at 10 o'clock. And then on Friday, not a lot going on. So we see Thursday and Wednesday are going to be the main days that we really want to pay attention to. And then with interest rate decisions being released this week on so many different currencies, just be expecting weird spikes, in the market. So this is definitely going to be a stick and move type of week for me. I'm not going to be looking for long shots. I'm not going to be looking for those swing trades and those position trades. All right. Next, let's get into reviewing the DXY. All right. We always want to go over the DXY, especially if you're trading anything that has anything to do with the dollar. And let's switch this over. Make sure you guys can see. All right, we are here. Okay, so remember last week, let's head out to the daily. So let's look at the weekly. Clean this up. All right, so last week I said, see this orange box here. This is consolidation. And I was targeting these highs up here. This is what I wanted to see get swept. Price action was a little tricky. So we did get a break out of the consolidation. Like I said, it consolidated pretty much all week. And Thursday night, Friday morning is when the breakout started to happen. And then it continued to break out today. And although it did sweep these highs right here, all it did was come up and create an equal high, which in my eyes just created more liquidity. So what I was looking for was I was looking for it to come a little further up and then start to sell off. But it didn't do that. It did poke above these highs here. Find my arrow. It did poke above these highs here, but it stopped right here, and we created equal highs. And on top of that, we have some overbought conditions on the relative strength index, or the RSI. And so with that, like I said, it's kind of a tricky situation, and I'm in a stick and move type of move, but I'm more bearish because price came up and swept these highs and created a equal high. I do believe it does have a little further to go, but the way that it's reacting, I'm actually looking for it to drop back down to the top of the channel and back into consolidation. which means I'm going to be looking for buys tonight on EU. And it may be approaching the buy zone now. All right, so we have a mitigation zone here on the dollar where price, this is a significant level. And so what I'm looking for and what I'm betting on is price to come up into this mitigation area and sell down. This is the buy zone. So let me zoom back out so you guys can I'll be still so you guys can take a visual, take a screenshot if you need to. But where price is headed up to now, the mitigation, I'm expecting it to reject from that area. The yellow zone within the old consolidation zone, that's where I'm expecting it to react from and buy. Now, each one of these scenarios, whether it sells, whether it comes to the mitigation, or whether it goes down to the buy zone, each place I'm going to be expecting reactions on euro. So everything I'm going to be looking for on the euro is going to be reactions. So if we see the dollar going up right now, I would expect the euro to be going down into my expected buy zone. Before we head to the euro, let's look at the pound, the euro versus the pound, and see what it's telling us about the strength or the weakness of the euro. So we've really been doing a lot of consolidation. We've had liquidity sweeps. We swept these highs, right? Market came down. We swept these lows before we came up and swept the highs, and then we took it down. I'm expecting more weakness from euro because I'm expecting more bullishness from the dollar, right? What we just talked about. And so the temporary strength right now, I'm expecting temporary strength from euro. So I'm expecting this to buy against the pound and strengthen against the pound. And this is the area I expect it to sell from. So with that, even within this, I see buying opportunity. I see the dollar headed up to an area I expect it to sell from. So let's look at the euro. And here's what we have. So this, I want to say Sunday. Yeah, Sunday market open leading into, this was Monday at 1 o'clock in the morning. We had this wick, this candle. Price came down and then shot up. And then we had a break of structure here. And so I was able to catch that buy this morning. And I was expecting it to come down and retrace into the buy zone, but it didn't. It kind of came up to a sell zone that I had and rejected, which is why I'm expecting more bullishness. I want to see this come up more. I'm targeting these highs. I'm expecting a sell from here. And you see, if we come up here, I'm really betting more on a sell than I am a buy. And what I mean by that is I would risk more on a sell than I would on a buy, because I still, even though we have temporary bullishness, right? We have some temporary bullishness going on. We have a pullback. We had, it was oversold on the RSI. Overall, I can't forget that we are still bearish and we've been in a bearish trend. And so we had this extension down and we had a pullback and we had another extension down. So if I pull the fib from this high to this low, how much has this move been retraced? It came almost up to the 50% and it's kind of retracing. And like I said, I'm expecting price to play around in this area more. So I'm looking for that reaction buy. I'm looking for that reaction buy and that reaction sell. So again, I'll drop down to the lower time frame so you can just kind of get a visual of that. This is what I'm expecting to happen tonight. Either we come up and we get a reaction sell, or we come down and we get a reaction buy. And what I mean by reaction, I'm not expecting. I'm getting in for it's probably going to be a 1-to-1 ratio trade, and I'll be looking for either 20 pips take profit, 20 pip stop loss, or 30 pip take profit, 30 pip stop loss. Now with the sell, like I said, I'll risk more on that. But these are the zones for EU. All right, so next, all right, we went over the pound versus the euro, the dollar, Euro USD. All right, now it's time for you guys to pick a pair. So if it's anything you want me to analyze, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Just go ahead and start dropping the pairs, and we'll either go with the first pair that's dropped, or if there's a pair that's mentioned more than once, we'll go with that one. Anybody got anything that they want analyzed? A second opinion on? All right, UCAD it is. Oh, they're coming in. I gotta wait. Hold on. Let me see if we get more than one. Do 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 do. All right, so it looks like UCAD. So we're gonna go ahead and go over UCAD. So we got UCAD, US30, GBP JPY, UCAD twice. Not only was UCAD first, it was also twice. So we got to go with UCAD, y'all. All right. Right, UCAD clean chart. And we got to start from the higher time frame. Get our major support and resistance zone, so we know what levels we working on. It's a significant level here. Okay. All right, so I see UCAD is kind of, it's been downtrending, which would make sense because the United States dollar has been weakening. But this looks like a strong rejection from this from a significant area of support. This is a major support level. We got a strong reaction on the weekly, so maybe looking for a buy on the lower time frames. Oh yeah. Yeah, we got a protected low here. Came down and then he just went bullish. So that's as high as liquidity. I gotta call it what it is, man. This is we ranging right now. UCAD is ranging right now, which is going to change my analysis of what I would do. So let's make this the proper color. Send to the back. Okay, so UCAD is ranging right now, but it looks very similar to what the dollar just did last week. So let me save this. Let's go back to the DXY real quick. Let me make sure. Let me add this. So see how it ranged, and then this last run right here, it just kind of went straight up, and then we had the breakout. That looks very similar to what UCAD is doing. It's very similar, but it lost momentum when it got up to the top. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna treat this like consolidation. We came to the bottom, went to the top, came back to the bottom, went back up to the top, came to the bottom. Now we at the top and we kind of pulling back. I do see strength. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a reaction area. I'm gonna give you an area where I would expect it to react from. All right. So I believe that this is gonna be a demand zone, and you would get a reaction if it did come down there. From the way that it's looking though, with this bullish move, if this is a pullback, if you see price start to make moves like this where it's kind of creating support and it's headed for this high, it's a good chance that it's about to break out, especially if you have momentum supporting you on the dollar. If you see the dollar starting to go bullish, then this is a likely buying scenario. And once price gets up in these levels and it's created support, I would start looking for buys on the lower time frame. If not, if it continues to fall, I'm expecting a reaction out of this area, and I would only expect it to go so far. Maybe, back up to maybe back up here, which would be about 50 pips. So if you could squeeze 20 to 30 pips out of that, if it gives you a reaction, this is the buy zone. Where I would sell from, I said if price came up here, I would expect it to keep buying just because of price action here. So even though this is consolidation, I wouldn't sell the top of the consolidation based on this evidence of price action that we have here. The next area that I would sell from, got to keep in mind that this has been downtrending and breaking structure. So treating this like a downtrend, let's pull from the high to the low. We've already retraced to the 618. The next area that I would expect a reaction from is in the golden pocket, which within the golden pocket, you see we got a lot of price action going on right here. So boom, we got our, see, boom, boom. Last one up here. Yeah, I like this area here for a sell. Like I said, this week is stick and move because of all the interest rate decisions in and out. And then of course if price drops below this buy zone after it reacts or if it blows through it, once we start to dip down into these levels at the bottom of the consolidation, I would expect some type of reaction. But if it comes back down here, again, looking at the DXY, if the dollar is weakening, I'm expecting UCAD to continue falling because remember from the higher time frame, we've been bearish, right? So if we drop back down and we get back down to these levels, I'm expecting hold on. This will be the extension. So first stop would be here. Second stop will be there at the 1618. So those are my levels that I would expect it to extend to and have some type of reaction. So if we come down here, reaction, I believe this is the first stop, which if we count how many pips could we harvest from the bottom of the consolidation to that first stop, you got a range of about 150 pips. So if you can pull 20 to 50 out of that, or get the whole thing, that would be good. But yeah, that's what I got for UCAD. We're in a range right now from the higher time frame, and we're currently rejecting from the top of that range, but there was strong bullish movement showing evidence of strength. And so I would take a chance at the middle of the consolidation with this buy zone, and I would only focus on a reaction. So small amount of pips. And if it drops below, looking for the sell. If we break up, looking for a reaction sell here. So how y'all feel about that? Is that lining up with what you were seeing? Was it anything that was revealed to you that you weren't looking at before? Anybody who was, I think it was John who brought up UCAD and Khalil. Are y'all in agreement with what y'all seeing? Oh yeah, no problem, y'all. No problem. No problem. All right, cool. Well, that's going to be it for the analysis. Now we're going to get into the talks about the Strait of Hormuz and the petrodollar. And as I'm going through this, I want y'all to know that this is something that I'm learning about myself. Just being open and honest. Once I got to digging again, shout out to John. Once I got to digging into, I know what the petrodollar is, but I never really dove in and found out exactly, what it is, what it meant, and how it affects everything. And then the Strait of Hormuz. So we're gonna get into it. If you guys got anything, if there's anybody out there that's knowledgeable on the topic, feel free to share as I'm telling you guys what I came into. If there's anything extra you want to add, feel free to comment. This is each one teach one. So let's get into it. Let me remove this. And put me at the bottom here. Okay, so my first question was, because this was my first time hearing of the Strait of Hormuz, right? And what I found out is that the Strait of Hormuz is a canal. Basically, it's south of Iran and north of Oman, and it runs between them, and it basically connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. And Iran actually is in control of the northern part of the canal. Like they have dominion over that. They have control over it. And then Oman has control of the southern portion of it. So that was something that, was new to me. Once I learned about it, I'm like, okay, it's divided. It's divided between these two countries. And they say that it's the most important oil transit choke point in the world. And that's because about 20% of the oil that's traded in the world runs through this port, right? Now, 20% may not seem like a lot, but it is, especially when you think in terms of your own account, your own money. If you took 20% of your total earnings, or you lost 20% of your account on a trade, I mean, that's a significant amount. One more 20% loss, and you almost your account is almost half gone, right? And so they say that any disruption here can influence global oil prices. And what I want to get into is why it's such a big deal and why people have been talking about it so much is because of the petrodollar. So what is the petrodollar exactly? What I found out is that we know that everything switched from the gold standard. We know under President Nixon, that's when we got away from the gold standard. And from the gold standard, they went to the oil standard, or what's called the petrodollar. And that was in 1971. But in 1974, the United States made a deal with Saudi Arabia, and they said because Saudi Arabia is the world's largest oil exporter, oil producer, and so they said they made a deal. They said in exchange, this is what America said, we'll provide military protection for you, blase, blase. Y'all know how America do. And in turn, y'all only sell oil. Oil can only be sold if it's bought with American dollars. And what this did was it caused all the countries, any country that was buying oil, they first have to exchange their currency for American dollars, which is going to do what? What do we know about supply and demand and trading? We know that the more that people want something or need something, the value of it goes up. And so this would keep the demand for the United States dollar high, right? And it's, when I think about it, it's a bully move, but it's genius from a business point of view. I mean, you pretty everybody in the world, because of the way they have the system set up, needs oil. You can't live off, that's why people who come up with free electric and we can get energy from the sun. Why would they allow us to do that when they make so much money from oil? Might be talking too much, but that's what this was. And so I realized, okay, every time a country has to buy oil, this is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. They got to convert that money to US dollars before they buy it, right? So that's the petrodollar, like wrapped up, summarized. It's pretty cut and dry as far as like the significance of it. So how would that affect? How does the Strait of Hormuz and what's going on there affect that? Well, 20%. If 20% of the world's the world's oil, or what the oil that's traded is going through there, and they say, hey, we're gonna use the Chinese yuan, or we're gonna use the euro, and they basically trying to influence other countries to use other currency outside of the dollar to get away from the dollar. Now, this is something that I want to clear up. As of now, the only exchange change that's been different is with Iran and China. There hasn't been any other countries that has decided to exchange for anything else. Like, they've still been using the dollar. Of course, it makes sense. We at war with Iran. Iran is at war with us. They're not using the dollar, right? Why would you? Why would you do it? It wouldn't make sense. The second thing I want to go over what's fact and fiction about what's going around, because a lot of things have been getting posted. And like I said, I had to dig for myself. So here's what a lot of common online claims are saying: that Iran now requires all oil shipments to be purchased in Chinese yuan. And that's not true. That only happened with Iran and China, as far as we know. Now, things that are developing, of course, it might be some things developing. Of course, there's other countries that are liking this idea, because who wouldn't want to see the greatest country fall? And I'm gonna get into that too. Why, even if that happened, everything is so complex. All right, and then the petrodollar has officially ended. We know that that's not true because of what I just said. And this next one, the US dollar will immediately collapse if oil trades in other currencies. And this is not true for a lot of different reasons. Even if, with 20% of the world's oil being traded in the Strait of Hormuz, there are other things that the dollar is connected to as far as commodities. We're involved in world trade, and then you have international, and let me not say they're involved in world trade, right? So commodities and then international banking. When it comes to global reserves held by other countries, the United States, or the American dollar, is 60%, 58 to 60% of the world reserves that are being held by other countries. Next up, under them, the next largest reserve being held is the euro. And you know how much of the euro is being held around the world? 20%. And then from there it goes Russia, Japan, and all of those are at 5%. So the United States is more than half of the global as the global reserve currency of what other countries hold to be able to trade and sell and buy and sell things. All right. So that's another thing. Something else that I learned is that the United States is one of the biggest oil producers in the world. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the United States produce so much oil. It's either the largest or the second largest oil producer in the world outside of um, the Saudi Arabia. And so, but different refineries require different oil. And most of the refineries and what people are demanding is the oil from the Middle East. So that's another thing. The United States also has its own, source of oil. And then on top of that, there are other straits in the world. There are other straits that account for up to 8 to 9%. I believe there's Panama, there's the Canal of Panama, there's the Canal of Suez, and then a number of other canals. So what's going on right now from what I see, and before I get into that, the facts. The Strait of Hormuz is open to the international shipping, but it is closed to the vessels linked to the United States and Israel, which is what the big deal has been about. It's because they're stopping Israeli ships and American ships from passing through. So that's what this is about. The most global oil trade is still priced in US dollars. And then some countries are experimenting with non-dollar energy trade, but the dollar still dominates. Um, and what I see going on, what I believe is going on. Let me stop sharing. What this looks like to me is just a Game of Thrones. You have countries, and then it's a Game of Thrones between kings who have egos and pride, and it's about money and positioning and getting into position. And then even deeper than that, of course, you have the strings that are, that are being pulled even behind the scenes, the unseen people that we don't see and the unseen spirits that we don't see. But it's something to talk about. And it's something that can ignite fear because it's like, oh, the petrodollar now that they're attacking oil and it's 20%. That's 20% of the oil, and the dollar is about to crash. And these are the conversations that this is going to bring up. This is the fear, the anxiety, the excitement, whatever it is, it's something to talk about. But when you really look at it, it's not as impactful. Even if it went to the extreme, it wouldn't be as impactful as what I think everybody believes. And I was believing the same thing until I dug more into it and I understood better how the inner workings of the system work, where there's a lot of other things that come into play. There's a lot of other things that come into play as far as the way the dollar is valued. And even if every single country decided to convert their money to the yuan or the Russian ruble or whatever, the dollar still wouldn't just immediately crash. That's not the way it works. So, I hope I bring some relief and some clarity on that, because I got clarity from it and I understand a lot better what's going on now, and that it's really not that big of a deal with that. What is a big of a deal is the little people like us who have to suffer and are the expense of war, right? We are the expense of this narrative that they're writing. We're at the expense of the egos and the power and the positioning, and as innocent people being killed. It's unfortunate that war does this, but it's innocent people dying, and it's war at the end of the day. That's what is real. That's what is real, is that it's war and people are dying, and that it is possible that the war could end up here on US soil, and it might not even be them. You know what I'm saying? It might be a red flag type of case. Like, just because this war is going on and we know how they write stories and everything, that's what's real. I know that's real. As far as the script and everything that's being put out there and all the fear and the anxiety, I don't know about all that. All I know is that it is possible that war could touch here. War is going on, and we got to be prepared for that. So at the end of the day, read some of these facts, man. Coach, yes, pride comes before destruction for sure. Yup, haughtiness. But yeah, that's it, man. If like I said, if anybody got anything that they want to drop in the comments as far as anything I may have missed or any information, any extra information that you have that other people could use, feel free to drop it in there. But other than that, that's it's 9:55. That'll wrap it up for this call. I really hope everybody got value and learned something from this call. Um, excuse me. Remember what I said about Ecclesiastes 3. Ecclesiastes 3. Always keep that in mind with your trading. That it's a time for everything, and that you don't have to trade. If you are unsure, you uncertain, and you have that feeling, learn to trust that feeling because that is a skill that you develop. It's called trader's intuition, right? Other than that, y'all stay safe. Remember, becoming a master trader is becoming a master trader is more than just you know analyzing the markets, and becoming a master trader is about mastering yourself, right? And remember, discipline before profits and faith over everything. All right, y'all. Peace.